They're not watching you because they admire you. They're watching you because they're studying you. Manipulators don't search for strength. They search for softness, for emotional openings, for guilt, for insecurity, for the need to be liked. And the moment they sense hesitation in your voice, they strike. Most people never realize they're in psychological warfare until their confidence is destroyed, their peace is gone, and they're questioning their own reality. Because manipulation doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it looks like concern. Sometimes it sounds like love. Sometimes it hides behind compliments, fake support, or passive-aggressive smiles. And if you keep walking through life emotionally exposed, you will continue to attract people who feed on your energy. But today that changes. Because in this video, you're going to learn the psychological tactics manipulators use, and more importantly, how to become untouchable to them, not emotional, not reactive, not predictable, unreadable. This is not about becoming cruel. This is about becoming aware. Because once you understand the game, you stop being controlled by it. Manipulators rarely target confident, emotionally disciplined people first. They target empaths, people pleasers, trauma survivors, people conditioned to over-explain themselves, people raised to feel guilty for having boundaries. They look for people who crave validation because validation creates leverage. And once they know what you fear, they know how to control you. Some manipulators use guilt, others use silence, some use charm, others use intimidation. But the goal is always the same: control your emotions, so they can control your behavior. That's why emotional discipline is one of the most dangerous things you can develop. Because once your emotions stop being publicly accessible, their weapons stop working. One of the fastest ways to disarm a manipulator is to become a mirror. Manipulators rely on emotional asymmetry. They act, you react. That's the formula. But the moment you stop reacting emotionally and start reflecting behavior back calmly, the game changes. If they become vague, you become vague. If they pressure you, you pause. If they ask invasive questions, you calmly ask, "Why do you ask?" Not aggressively, strategically. Because manipulators hate self-awareness. They hate being observed. They want access to your mind while hiding their own intentions. But when you mirror them, they become uncomfortable. Suddenly, they're forced to face their own behavior, and most manipulators cannot tolerate their own reflection for long. Your calmness becomes threatening. Your silence becomes power. That's why emotionally disciplined people make manipulators nervous, because they cannot predict them. The manipulator's greatest weapon is not their words. It's your reaction. They provoke, they test, they throw subtle insults, passive-aggressive comments, fake jokes, and most people immediately react. They defend themselves, over-explain, get angry, get emotional. And the manipulator wins, because now they've pulled you into emotional chaos. But powerful people understand something most people never learn. Emotion is information, and not everyone deserves access to yours. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It means becoming emotionally disciplined. You feel everything privately, but strategically in public. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Because silence forces people to confront themselves, and manipulators hate silence. Manipulators thrive on urgency. Answer me now. I need to know immediately. Why haven't you responded? Pressure creates emotional mistakes. That's why strategic delay is so powerful. You stop responding instantly. You stop explaining immediately. You stop giving people unrestricted access to your energy. And something interesting happens. The manipulator begins losing control because people who depend on controlling others become uncomfortable when they lose access. Strategic delay creates psychological space, and in that space, Truth reveals itself. You start noticing patterns, desperation, emotional instability. People expose themselves when they can't control your timing anymore. That's real power, not reacting on command. Manipulators thrive on urgency. Answer me now. I need to know immediately. Why haven't you responded? Pressure creates emotional mistakes. That's why strategic delay is so powerful. You stop responding instantly. You stop explaining immediately. You stop giving people unrestricted access to your energy. And something interesting happens. The manipulator begins losing control because people who depend on controlling others become uncomfortable when they lose access. Strategic delay creates psychological space, and in that space, truth reveals itself. You start noticing patterns, desperation, emotional instability. People expose themselves when they can't control your timing anymore. That's real power, not reacting on command. The moment a manipulator realizes you can walk away, their power starts collapsing. Because manipulators depend on emotional attachment. They depend on your fear of losing them. That's why detachment terrifies controlling people. When you stop begging, stop chasing, stop proving, you become dangerous. Not loud, not aggressive, calm, detached, willing to leave anything that disturbs your peace. And suddenly, the manipulator panics because they realize they can no longer control your emotions. People respect what they believe they can lose. And once someone realizes you are fully capable of walking away, the dynamic changes forever. You are no longer who you were before this video. You no longer chase validation. You no longer explain your boundaries. You no longer collapse emotionally every time someone misunderstands you. Now, you observe. You calculate. You move with intention. You protect your peace. And manipulators can feel that shift immediately, because emotional discipline changes your entire presence. You stop looking easy to manipulate, you stop looking emotionally available to toxic people, and suddenly, the same people who once tried to control you become uncomfortable around you. Why? Because they can no longer read you. And to a manipulator, that is terrifying. If this video resonated with you, comment below. I am unreadable. I am untouchable. Like this video. Subscribe. And remember, the strongest people in the room are not always the loudest. Sometimes, they're simply the hardest to control.